Hello, it's Shelley F Knight, bringing you Positive Changes, a self-kick podcast. So today on the show, we're joined by Raymond Dőrfel, and he is a men's coach and speaker. So hello to Raymond.
Well, thank you, Shelley. You pronounced it wonderfully.
You're too kind. I've been laughing off air because I thought if I say that right, it's going to be a good episode, isn't it?
Well, let's see what happens. You never know.
Bless you. I think you're just being polite, but thank you. I'm just going to call you Raymond from now on, drop the surname. So bless you. We've started with laughter, but I know you've had the most amazing or ongoing journey to the man you are today, to the work you do with men today. So please do share your story.
Well, thank you. Well, obviously I'm a man, and I think the whole journey was about finding what kind of a man am I? You know, what do I stand for? What do I long for? What kind of a father am I? I grew up in a broken home. My father, he was either not there, and when he was there, he was this overly narcissistic. I'm always better. You're nothing. I know you will never amount to anything. So I grew up believing that I had nothing. I was nothing. My father and mother divorced when I was 7, and they were very violent towards each other, very violent. And my mother got depressed. So I made a decision when I was 7, subconsciously, to take care of my mother and my sister. And, when you have a history with men, I'm talking about my mother, that are abusive, and there's no consciousness on that, it keeps repeating. So my mother got boyfriends that did the exact same thing. And my whole journey in that was I was not a child. I was either a caretaker, I was a psychiatrist, psychologist, I was a partner, let's so to speak. I didn't have sex with my mother, but I was in all kinds of positions except of my own. So I had to figure out for myself, what is my place? What is my place? Where am I? What am I? Who am I? And growing up without a father, especially for young men, I found it extremely difficult. I grew up with women. So growing up with women means, I think I have an understanding of what, difficulties women have from a young age. But I also understand the difficulties of being a man in an environment which resents men, because my mother really resented men. And for good reason, the things she'd experienced. Even though we won't let her off the hook as well. And I believe, the way I look at it now, if I say this like really directly, I was castrated. I was a castrated nice guy. So I tried to do everything right, always smile, and never express my emotions because I felt so responsible for everybody. There was no room or space for who I was or what I wanted, for my needs or my wishes. And this is what I started to believe. I started to believe with everything I've been taught, you'll never amount to anything. You're worthless. You're stupid. You're a man, and you need to be, punished, because if I'm the only man in the family, and my mother is angry at men. So I always felt I was the one that hurt my mother. I thought I was the one that caused my father and mother to get a divorce. And I come from, like I said, this broken family. That was difficult, in a sense that not because of the responsibilities I got or I took upon myself, but peeling off the layers like an onion, peeling off the layers, because the choices I made then helped me for a couple of years. They help me survive. But surviving is like swimming in the water, with your fingers up, and you're paddling and you're trying to keep your head above the water. That's surviving. But I didn't just want to survive. I wanted to thrive. And in order to do that, I had to face things about myself and the relationship I had, especially with my father. Because even though I hated my father, He never showed up. He never showed up. You know, he didn't keep his promises, lying, cheating, you name it. He did it. And he's a changed man now. But obviously because I changed as well. But at some point I started hating him. I was loyal to him, but I hated him because I had all these, well, young boys, because I played soccer, I did judo, who had their fathers, you know, I played professional soccer when I was young. They had their fathers at the side of the field, you know, encouraging them, yeah, you go, you go. And every time I looked, there was no one. And I was like, I was a survivor, but it had its limits. Because I would have loved having a father or a role model to really not just push you, but support you and encourage you, you know, to show you what, you know, what it's like. How do you treat women? How do you treat women? In a good way, in a healthy way, you know, in a loving way, in an understanding way. And I'm not saying that, you know, women don't have their things. You know, they have their things. But how do you deal with that? How to deal with that without going into drama? Those were the things I would have loved to learn when I was young. But I didn't when I was young, so I taught myself when I got older. And the relationship I had with my father was difficult. When I was 13, I started working in his pizzeria. He was an Indonesian living in Friesland. Friesland is like a second language in Holland, and where, you know, mostly white. I was the only dark-colored person in the village I grew up in. And I lived, like I said, I worked in his pizzeria. So I tried to bond with him, but it never worked. So most of the times I got home and I was frustrated, but I blamed myself. I had to try harder. I had to do better. I had to work harder to be a better son. That's what I thought. So then I went to, I think you call it high school. No, not high school. I was for 20s. I was like 12 to 16. We go to a school here. That's before you go to university. And what I did, I was like, I'm going to show everybody how good I am. You know, professional sports and, you know, doing all my educations right. But what happened? I got kissing disease. You know, kissing disease, right?
Yeah. Is it
I got
glandular fever?
Yes, something like that. So
Yeah.
I was in my bed for 3/4 of a year. Now, imagine this. My whole life was about the identities I had outside of myself. I was the soccer player. And then I couldn't play soccer. I couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
So I lost my identity. I was in bed for 3/4 of a year. Then I had to do the school year over, which was another huge mental blow at that time. And when I got out of it, I worked on the Saturdays as well in the pizzeria. I had a motorcycle, well, a bit of a smaller one. I drove home and then I got into an accident. Someone just hit me and I was in bed again for 3 weeks. So, and I had a girlfriend at that time. And she was gorgeous. And she was a model. She was gorgeous. And I think in the city, this Leeuwarden, it's one of the top north cities of Holland, they called us Mr. and Miss Perfect because she did these pageants, you know, and it was like great. You know, I'm dating a beautiful girl. But she called me because she went to her sister. Her sister was an au pair in France, and she came back, and I bought her like a card and like a gift, and thank you. I'm so happy that you're back. And she called me. Listen, I want to break up with you. I was like, what? Yeah, well, you know what? The people there in France and the au pair that her sister was, they're all rich and they all had money, and I don't believe you're going to give me that anytime soon. And I was heartbroken. And the things I heard, because I was so heartbroken, you know what my father said to me then? Well, plenty of fish in the sea. You'll get over it. But I was so heartbroken. You know what I mean? I lost my what do you call that? Professional sports. I lost the trust in my body because I was a go-getter. Then I lost my relationship, and I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep for 1 or 2 months. So we went to the doctor to get me some sleeping pills, right? But the sleeping pills didn't even work. And then one evening, I think it was 17, one evening I couldn't sleep again. So I picked up the pot of pills. I went to the toilet and asked myself 2 questions. Do I want to be here? Or do I not want to be here? You know, what if I felt like I had nothing to offer, if I had this idea about myself that I was nobody, that I was never going to amount to anything, that I lost my identities as a soccer player, that, you know, I had everything around me fall apart because I didn't have my own identity yet. So I almost made the choice to swallow those whole box of pills. But I flushed them down the toilet because I asked myself, if I'm going to flush them down the toilet, I want to make something of my life. I didn't know it was going to be hard. I had no idea. There was this one spark inside of me, one spark that was actually, you know, wanted to live.
Yeah.
I wanted to live. And making that decision also means, without even knowing it consciously, that it had consequences. Because growing up with trauma, growing up with ideas about yourself that aren't supporting it or in any kind, you know, and trying to overcome them, you know, that can be quite taxing and difficult. But then I got into university, and that liberated me in a way, because I lived with my father for a year when I was 18, and I really needed to get out of there. I really needed to get out of there. I flushed the toilet 2 or 3 times. I locked the door 2 or 3 times. I cleaned the kitchen cabinet like 2 or 3 times because I was so insecure of making a mistake.
Yeah.
And I felt like if there was one molecule on the kitchen cabinet, I would be punished for some reason. So I was very insecure. So I was really, really anxious to get out of that house. So then I got into university. And for some reason that I felt liberated. You know, I was doing a sports and science education, and I could do all the sports I wanted every day. I lived together with 2 classmates, and that, you know, they were also, you know, into sports. So we practiced every day. But I was working in a gym for 30 hours a week, aerobics, Tai Bo, steps, spinning, fitness. And I, you know, worked out at school for 30 hours a week. And I did a huge number on my body, but I didn't notice that until after I was 25. But, you know, before that, everything was fine. But then my study ended, and I was already in a course or like an education for psycho-emotional therapy, you know, to become a coach, because I was always I was always curious about, you know, how the mind works, and how do emotions work, and are they connected to the body, yes or no? So within my study, I don't know how many educations I did, because I did all kinds of education with neck, with backs, with pregnancy. I did climbing instructor, I did swimming instructor. I did so many instructors courses because I was raging with curiosity about life, and it still didn't fulfill me. And so I had a hole. I felt like I had a hole. And I tried to fill that hole with knowledge. And it brought me a lot, you know, it brought me a lot of knowledge, but it never gave me any peace. And so when I turned around 25, my whole body started crumbling down physically. I had back problems, huge back problems. I had inflamed Achilles heels, and I was trying to, you know, smile,
Yeah,
and keep everything up, and I worked really hard. You know, I was so hard on myself, because obviously if you think you don't, you know, you're never going to amount to anything, but you're a survivor and a fighter, then you'll do anything to be acknowledged. So I went to teach class with bruised ribs, with concussions, with high fever, with splinters off my bones, because I had to be this good employee. I had to show everybody that I was a good man. But instead, I was destroying myself. And then years later, because I met the mother of my son, and we started living together, and we had a son. He was definitely planned. He was so welcome, and I think we decided to um, have children, and I think within 1 week of our holiday, she was pregnant, and I was ecstatic because this was my opportunity to create a family of my own, coming from a broken family, and there was this drive inside of myself that wanted or needed to have this family together. But obviously, if I hadn't dealt with everything that was going on in my youth, things had to change. So my relationship ended, and I felt like a failure. And it was in 2010 and 11. 2010, the relationship ended, and my son was about to become one. And in 2011, I found out that my accountant, he was kind of cheating on me. So I had to pay the IRS like 25,000 euros back. So then I lost all my money. I had lost my relationship. I felt betrayed. For some reason, because this was my whole upbringing, right? You're being betrayed. Everybody's leaving you, and you're trying so hard. And when you try so hard, not just that someone is leaving you, you're gonna get a kick in your ass afterwards as well. So it felt so unfair, and then I had to sell my house. I lived in that house for 11 years. I had a beautiful, like we call it like a mansion is a big word, but we call it Hera house. It's like a lord's mansion. And I was so proud of that. So I still had these outside identities. I was still looking for outward acknowledgement. And every time I did that, things fell apart. So, losing my family, losing my money, losing my house, had to start over again. And then I fell into a depression. I fell into a depression for 4 years. And I hadn't, I hadn't spoken to my father in years as well, because I was angry. I was so angry. But being depressed is like hanging halfway down the well. You can't go up, but you sure as hell don't want to go down. Yeah. Because depression for me was a problem with expression. I had so many pent up, held up emotions and feelings, but I was always smiling because I never ever wanted to hurt anyone, but instead I hurt myself. Yeah. So growing up without a healthy role model, especially as a young man, you can do two things with this masculine energy. You can become explosive. So you see in the world, then you destroy other people's lives, or you become implosive and you destroy yourself. So I think around 2010, I became addicted to porn. I became game addicted. I really liked playing video games, but then I became really addicted. I think I played like 9 hours a day. Wow. Excluding all the porn I watched. I mean, if anything, there was so much energy and so much energy inside of me, so much tension that I had no outlets. I mean, how many men have learned to really have a channel, to channel all that masculine energy into something productive and constructive for yourself and for others? I hadn't learned that. So I needed to find a way out. And that was either sex, porn, gaming, or hard working, because that was the only thing, or doing sports. But when I got depressed, doing sports was like, it's like swimming uphill. I mean, waking up and feeling completely drained and empty and crying, but then obviously I still had work. So when the moment I opened the door, wipe off your tears, smile, and and just, it looks like everything's fine with Raymond. Raymond didn't need any help. Wow, look at him. Look at what he can do. Look at all the courses he's doing. Look at all the work he's doing. Wow, we should applaud him. But that was all it was a mask. Yeah. I tried to keep my appearances up. I tried to be strong. I tried to be independent, even though my heart was screaming to let go. So I was, like I said, I was depressed for 4 years. And I finally found, okay, let's start over again. So I found a business partner, someone who wanted to invest. So I started a new company where I diagnosed and measured professional athletes and non-athletes. I also did treatments. I did drainage therapy and bioresonance, and it was booming. But then I found out that my business partner, even though that wasn't what we agreed on, got almost 45% of my company. And even though I paid off 25,000 euros in 1 year, it still added up. So instead of, so I borrowed 50,000 euros from him for the devices. So I thought, 50,000 minus 25,000, maybe with some interest, I should be on the roll, right?
Yeah.
And then I found out it was over 65,000. And I was like, what? And I was stressed out because I was already working so hard. He was going to do the business. He was going to do administration. And so I got invoices from another administration company. And I was like, what the hell's going on? But I really wanted, because I felt so responsible, I really wanted to pay him off. So I worked harder and even harder. And then my whole philosophy of, because all I wanted to do was support and help people out. And I generally didn't ask very much from people because, I didn't have that much self-worth. So I gave most of my time and energy away. But I obviously had to pay him off as well. So I started working on more clients. But that was incomprehensible. Yes, incomprehensible. Yes. It became so difficult. I got into a burnout. But nobody knew. I always kept smiling. I kept blaming myself and accepting the blame even from my business partner. And then I started up a franchise. I had 6 franchises. One franchisor needed a device. So I bought a device from my father. And he still had one. So I hadn't talked to him in years. But I bought one from him for like 4,500 euros. And we sold it for a very good price. So I wired the 4,500 euros to my father, which name is R. Dőrfel. My name is R. Dőrfel. And my business partner thought that I wired the money to myself. Oh. And he took all the money out of the company. He took all the money. So I didn't have any money. So I was burnt out, didn't have any money. We got into a huge argument and fight. And well, luckily, according to law, the law was on my side. So he couldn't do anything. But I felt betrayed nonetheless. I was like, man, I worked so hard. Why can't you see that? So there was a second time. And I had a friend of mine. He was ill for 2 years, because this is a pattern. I'm going to explain a little pattern, which started with my father. And he was sick for 2 years. I treated him, I helped him. I spent a lot of time and energy in him, and we became even better friends. And then I taught him the treatments. I was taught treatments for putting vertebrae, etc. in place with a typical massage. And I taught him that. And so he's making good money off it. But then I found out that behind my back, he was telling people that I was an idiot. I couldn't do anything. I had no knowledge, no experience. And he taught this treatment himself. I was like, what? How is that possible? So that was another betrayal. I was like, what the heck is going on? I was so angry. And then I had a friend who lived behind my house for 1.5 years. He built a shack here behind my house, and he could live here for free. And the same thing kind of happened, even though he didn't talk to me behind my back. So he ended the friendship after he left here, and he wanted to sell me the shack for 750 euros. And I said, I don't need that shack. You should get rid of it get rid of it. I don't need it behind my house. But then he wanted to give it for free to my neighbors. I was like, what? For 1.5 years, he wanted to give it to the neighbors, but sell it to me for 750 euros. But I still didn't get it. And then years later, I started another, I wrote a course for chauffeurs. And there was a man who wanted to do the marketing for me. So I wrote the course, and I found out he sent me a message, can you send me the presentation and the education? I want to do a presentation for a company and a few chauffeurs. But he he took the he took the whole course and gave it to Word for 112 chauffeurs. I was like, what the hell? That was another betrayal.
Yeah.
It wasn't about the persons. It was about that I gave away my value in my life because I didn't value myself. I resented myself. I blamed myself for everything, for everything. These were the signs and signals of all the people that came into my life, which started with my father and my mother, especially my father. And then, you know, obviously when that sinks in, that kind of consciousness, that really sinks in, like, why is this happening? What is going on? But it changed because I've done years of ayahuasca, mushrooms, kambo, um, and I also saw his own suffering. I could see my father sitting in a well with as a young boy with his arms around his knees, and I could see him, and I could feel compassion for him. I was like, wow, you know, you came here becoming the asshole in my life. But I realized that you're not the asshole in my life. You were my biggest teacher.
Yeah.
You were my absolute biggest teacher. And if I can't find my self-worth, if I can't even forgive myself for holding on to that pain for all those years, how in the world am I going to forgive him? How in the world am I going to live a loving, compassionate life towards anybody, truthfully? Truthfully. That's impossible. You mean you can act nice, you can smile, you can be kind, you can do all kinds of stuff for people, you can become even a pleaser, but that doesn't mean it's coming from a loving place. Definitely not, for me at least. So last year, I invited my father over for Christmas. Out of nowhere, because we hadn't spoken to each other for years. Right? But I had the feeling that all the things I went through, all the choices I made, and to finding my own being a man, you know, my own sexuality, my own sensuality, my own strength, my own ideas, my own way of living, because I was like a chameleon. I was always a chameleon. I could walk anywhere. I could talk to anybody about anything, but you almost never knew who I truly was. I hid that from everybody, including myself. But life has a way of bringing that out, because all the things I've experienced is like, I call it like the soul calling upon this to make sure you realize what you're doing to yourself, to make sure you realize, I realized how trapped I was, that I realized how incredibly difficult I treated myself, how incredibly difficult I made it for myself. So these were loving lessons, difficult lessons, expensive lessons, extremely expensive lessons. I mean, if I could get all the money back, you know, I'd probably be a millionaire or something. But that's okay. That's just something on the outside. So before it was Christmas, I did an ayahuasca weekend. And in this weekend, on the Sunday, it was the second day, I had a beautiful journey. But then I think it was after 30 minutes of this last session on Sunday, I got jumped. And it was my father. And he was like clinging to my legs and clawing on my legs and screaming, "You're not allowed, you're not allowed, you're not allowed." And that continued for like 2.5 hours. In my ears, in front of my eyes, everywhere I looked, he was screaming and shouting. And whether or not that's true, because it could also be this idea I had about it, that, because I asked him, so do you think I deserve a good life and love? And the answer was, no, you're not allowed, you're not allowed, you're not allowed. And I felt so heartbroken. I felt so heartbroken. And it even continued afterwards. I was sitting at the table and he was still screaming. I've never had a ceremony like that. And suddenly it stopped. And I sat at the table and I think, shit, man. I mean, I invited him over in a few days. What will happen? How is he going to be? I had no idea. But then Christmas happened. And he came in my house. I mean, he's 68 and he looks very young. I mean, he's very fit. And I've always admired that about him. He's always very fit and healthy. And he's a survivor too, and a fighter. And we sat here at the table, this big table we have here. And before we came here, I had a call with my mother, and she said, "Well, you know what, Raymond? I would really like to be there too." I was like, "What? You want to be there too?" I was like, "Yeah, that's fantastic." I said, "Yes." I couldn't have imagined my mother being there as well. I mean, my sister, yes, but my mother, that was like fire and ice. But she wanted to be here. And then we sat here and we were like, my mother here next to my father, and I was at the head of the table, and my sister was on the other side with her son. And no, my son wasn't there at the time. And I was like baffled. I was touched by and still how beautiful it is to see the amount of compassion and understanding and patience toward each other, and that we were truly listening to each other, that there was nothing in between, that there was no grudges, no finger pointing. And then I realized, wow, you know, all the work I've done, at least when I'm speaking for myself, and obviously the work I've seen my sister, my work that my sister has done, and my mother and my father. I was like, wow, no matter where you come from, no matter what you've been through, no matter how difficult it was, and it has been extremely difficult. I've had many moments in my life where I wanted to stop and end my life. Yeah. I asked myself many times, what the hell am I doing on this planet? I have nothing to share. I have nothing to offer. I mean, if all this kind of crap comes into my life, yeah, okay, well, if that's going to be my life, what's the use? But I didn't see the gifts at that time. I didn't see the treasure. Because there was one sentence that really lingers. Only the best students get the most difficult tasks. Why do the best students get the most difficult tasks? Because they were meant to be great teachers. I have not seen, because I've read many, many stories and many books, not read or seen any story of a hero or anyone that was important who hadn't had a difficult time when they were young. Yeah. Nobody, no exception. There might be some stories, but those aren't the most powerful stories. So the realization that all the things, the bullying I experienced, you know, the abuse, the physical abuse when I was young, because I haven't even told that story. That's a different story. The loss of money, like I lost my money 3 times and I had to sell my house. I lost my family. I lost everything around me. But you can never lose yourself. You can never lose who you truly are unless you make the choice not to engage with this person. And engaging with this person means also facing my own fears, my own doubts, my insecurities, my beliefs that didn't support me. The realization that I wasn't free. You know, iron bars do not a prison make. And I had quite some iron bars around me, even though I didn't realize it. But true freedom, true love, does not come just from, you know, the light part and being positive. Yeah. Because that's stupid. It's stupid just to think that whatever it is, what life is just about positivity. That's not. The real depths I went through, the real rabbit holes, is what taught me about who I truly am. Because demons are not demons. Demons are just beautiful lessons. We just treat them as such. I mean, I was afraid of my demons. I was ready to fight. Let's go. You know, it says, fight your demons head on. You don't fight yourself. I realized, you know, when I fight myself, how can you fight yourself? I call it the battle of the titans. It's like the mind against the heart. Yeah. It's like you have to make all these steps, you know, I have to make it work and I have to be strong. No, you're already strong. You're already making it work. I had so much difficulty surrendering. I was, I was fighting myself so hard. It got me into a depression. It got me into that burnout. It got me into all these situations because I was fighting my own being. I was fighting my own past. I was not accepting that what I had experienced in my life, that was actually something that I'm not saying it was my fault, but what I called upon to learn continuously until I learned. And I'll give you a little example. You've probably heard plenty of men and women telling you, I always meet the wrong women. I always meet the wrong men. Always, 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 always. No, you don't always meet them. You just continuously meet them because you hadn't learned the lesson yet.
Yeah.
It's not their fault. It's not your fault. They're just there to mirror you something about yourself. Whatever that may be. If you're willing and able and open to look at that part of you that is drawing that towards you. Because these assholes, or, well, let's call them bitches, they're not there to make your life miserable. Because, and here's the beauty. I hear a lot of talk about, I'm in my strength now, but they still continuously have drama in their life.
Yeah.
They still have people that cling onto them. Oh man, and I'm trying to keep away from those people. You don't need to keep away from anybody. If you are truly in line with yourself, if you've learned that lesson, you will not need those people in your life anymore. They will naturally be like, you'll be a naturally repellent in your energy. That's the way it works. And it's beautiful because the lessons, and I'm not saying that the same lessons can't repeat. I'm saying that I continuously had the same lessons, but on deeper levels. It's like the consciousness of those lessons becomes deeper. And I started remembering on a deeper level who I truly am, why I am truly here, what my responsibilities here are, and to accept them, lovingly accept them. So it's like playing soccer in a major league, and then you become a champion, like an expert or a professional, and you continue to the next league, and it's a whole, it's the same game, but on a different level. And it's just because I hear this from my clients as well. I still haven't dealt with my father's issues. Yes, you have. You have. But not on this level.
Yeah.
Not on this depth. Not on this height. Not with this magnitude. Not with this presence. Not with this power. Not with this mindset. I mean, the last few times that happened, I was depressed for 4 years. Now I have a hiccup of 2 days. That's progress.
Yeah.
The same kind of processes, the same kind of lessons, but on a different level. So this whole process of, especially the process of becoming not just becoming a man or a good man or a real man, whatever that may be, but to realize, what kind of values do I have? And what kind of beliefs do I have at this moment that are supporting me and others? And they might change. Because I realize all these emotions, all these traumas, all these stories, all these beliefs and ideas, they're not me, and they're not you either. And the moment I could separate myself from them, I could see those for what they are. It's like clouds coming in front of the sun. They pour out some rain, but sooner or later they're going to go away. I don't need to blow at the clouds like it's not like they're going to go away faster by try to be angry about it. You can sit there, oh man, this rain is really killing me now. You can be angry or whatever, but the clouds are not going to go away faster.
Yeah.
So sit down, accept that it's raining at this moment, and maybe the rain is there for a reason. You never know. But if you're willing, truly willing to engage with those reasons, and they might be difficult, they might be extremely difficult. I had, when I faced parts of myself that I didn't like, and I still encounter some of the things. For example, this week I found out that but part of me, I call, well, it's not spirituality. I've always seen pictures in my head. When I speak to people, when I touch people, I have pictures or words, but I always push it away. But recently, when I close my eyes, I start seeing colors and light. And like, I don't want that. But there's something that wants to come out.
Yeah.
And I literally sometimes feel someone is choking my throat. But it's not someone, it's me. I'm doing that. So I'm coming to it's like in a new stadium with this new things that are emerging. I call it, maybe seeing things that I have no idea what it is, but I know that it's there, and knowing things without knowing how I know them. And I was resented that because I always had to see it before I believe it.
Yeah.
But now I have to believe it before I see it. And that's quite a paradigm shift in my mind. So I realized that part of me is still a bit unfree, even though, this is a not so little secret. I weighed around 78 to 80 kilograms, pure muscle. But I was stiff, eh? I was like, I was almost the immovable object. Because having huge muscles and having tense muscles means there's a part of armoring.
Yeah.
And I think 1.5, 2 years ago on my journey, I lost within half a year 6 to 7 kilograms of muscle. And I am more flexible than ever. I'm more mobile than ever. I started dancing in my ayahuasca. I started dancing. Can I dance? And it's not that I am dancing. It feels like I am being danced. I mean, with that body of mine, like 78, 80 kilograms, it was impossible to be this, this sensual with my body. And all, all these little nuances I can feel. And the tingling in my eyes, the lightness in my head. Because I always had this dark blanket over my head, it was always in my mind, always overthinking stuff. And I always needed to know everything before I started to believe it. Like I said, first I have to see it to believe it. And now there's more like an openness. And it doesn't matter what kind of lessons I still have to learn, because it will happen. If I have to experience some difficult stuff, it's there. But that's not the thing. The thing is, how am I handling myself? How am I going to be compassionate and understanding towards myself in this situation? It's not the things that happen that matter. It's not the people in your life, in fact, that matter. It's how I treat them, how I engage with them. Am I fighting them? Am I resisting the lessons? Or am I open to the lessons, to the beauty, to the gifts? Am I open to it? And if I'm open to it, do I have the tools, the capacity, and the understanding to read between the lines of whatever comes on my path? And I think I can wholeheartedly say yes, I have. And I think where I come from, with all the resistance I had towards myself, and all the resistance I had towards everything I've experienced, and all the resentment I had towards the people that were in my life that gave me difficulty, even though they gave me beautiful lessons, that has been extremely liberating. And I feel extremely grateful for all the people and all the situations in my life that created this difficulty for me to be able to see what I see now, to be able to do what I do now, to be able to feel what I feel now and express myself and do the work I'm doing now. I mean, finding my own manhood and masculinity, my own fatherhood is still an ongoing process. And now I can help and support other men in finding their own, bringing men together in brotherhood and friendship. I feel extremely blessed and happy that I'm able to provide that for other men and for myself, because I'm still learning. So yeah, well, that was in a nutshell, because I think I can write a whole book about all these stories. But I think I've delved into the core of the story, unless you have a question, obviously.
No, bless you. We're out of time for today, but I just wanted to thank you for your journey, your message, your inspiration. I think people out there's going to be so many men wearing smiles as a mask. So just thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please ensure you subscribe and do leave a positive review. If you would like to create your own positive changes, head on over to shelleyfknight.com and you can buy yourself a copy of Positive Changes, a self-cookbook. If you want some positivity until the next show, come join us over on Facebook. That's Shelley F. Knight, Life Goes On. So I've been Shelley F. Knight, and as always, you've been amazing.